John. The year is 1877, and I am 50 years old and live with my wife Mary and sons Amos and Henry, and daughters Mabel, Jessie, and Jane on 100 acres of farm in Charlotte County, New Brunswick. My eldest son Matt is married and lives and works at a sawmill in St. Stephen. All 6 of our children are between the ages of 13 and 24. My father got this land in the early 1800s. He felled the trees and built a small log house. Part of it still stands in one of the fields as a shelter for the livestock. He managed to clear and farm about 10 acres, just enough to support his young family. But he had to supplement his income working on other farms until my brothers and I could help him. I will try and give you some idea of what our farming life is like, and my wife Mary will tell you what she and our daughters do, some things on a regular basis and others as the seasons pass. We live in a house that is timber framed but with lath and plaster interior walls. The rooms are not large, so they are easier to heat in the winter, but the kitchen is spacious, as it is the center of everyday activities. Mary insisted we have small rooms adjoining the kitchen for laundry weaving and butter making. Mary will tell you about the water supply and the privy later. I'm extending the barn to make some more space for the livestock and hay storage. We work some 70 acres. We are clearing more land, but still have an upland area under timber. There is a valley with a stream leading to a river. There are a number of cleared and cultivated fields and pastures for a bull, 2 heifers, 2 milk cows, and 10 sheep. Pigs are housed in a sty adjoining the barn. There are hens and geese, and very important, 2 strong horses providing horsepower. Soil varies, but there is good sandy loam and plenty of manure to work into the land. I will take you through the seasons, month by month, but please remember there are always daily chores to do, mucking out the stalls, feeding livestock, cutting and stacking wood, and my wife and daughters also have daily chores they share, like milking, feeding swill to the pigs, grain to the hens, collecting eggs, seeing to the vegetable garden, and general housekeeping. Started spring like, with the snow melting fast, giving us a cleanup. All the roads are dirt roads and suffer damage from snow and ice. Each farmer is partly responsible for the roads by his property, so we cut equal-sized logs to make corduroy repairs to the washed-out areas and collapsed bridge. Had to cut, load, and haul timber to a friend's horse-powered wood saw. We then chopped the smaller logs into fuel and delivered loads to various people using the box sled. Heavy lumber we hauled to the sawmill. We have been making sleepers, or ties as some call them. They are in great demand at the moment, and we can use up the hemlock, spruce, and fir. It is good the rail line is passing close by, so there will be a lot of this timber work during the winter and early spring. The snow returned and it is very cold. The one-room schoolhouse is closed, so Jane stayed home to help in the house, and I don't need to take fuel there. Weather much the same as January. We went to help cut ice from the lake. When the lake has frozen solid, my sons and I join friends using ice saws. Giant tongs to lift the ice blocks, chain ropes, and horse-drawn plows to clear snow from the ice. We mark out the blocks, saw, and lift them to wagons for storing in an ice house. This ice house is made of wood. raised from the ground with small spaces between the planks. Large blocks of ice are placed inside, some 3 inches apart. Ice is taken out as we need it and placed in ice boxes in our houses. Mary has been seeing to that and will explain.
So it is my turn to explain. Running a farmhouse means at certain seasons we have extra jobs to do, and having an ice box is an extra chore, but it means I can keep milk, meat, butter, and leftover food so much longer. The box is made of wood and lined with zinc, and between the 2 layers, it is packed with sawdust. Blocks of ice are stored in the box with trays on top to hold the food and a drip pan beneath to catch the meltwater. This has to be emptied daily and is Jane's job. If she forgets, it can get rather messy.
It's clear but cold with drifting snow. There was a big snowstorm, but I made it to the mill to vote. My candidate, McAdam, lost. Roads are bad. Amos, Henry, and I used the sled to reach the neighbors' houses and clear path.
I and the girls spent time cleaning the house thoroughly in preparation for spring and deciding what needed to be replaced. We must get a new oil lamp and some brooms, and remember to collect the linen sheets we had made from our flax plants. We supply the cut flax, but take it to a center where it is retted and processed into thread for weaving. We will look for a birthday gift for John, perhaps some decorated clay pipes. Spring cleaning includes a thorough cleaning of the well bucket and cover. The well is close by the kitchen and is some 20 feet deep. It is brick-lined with a solid stone surround at the top. A handle winds up the buckets of water. The wood lid prevents rubbish falling in. The privy or outhouse, which has to be cleaned regularly, is not too far from the house and barn, but well away from the water supply. The outhouse is about 3 feet by 4 feet and 7 feet high, with a box structure fitted inside, which has a hole in the top, at a height we can all sit on, and it is fitted with a hinged lid. The hole is above a large bucket which needs to be emptied regularly. This is reached through a removable panel in the front of the box. Toilet paper is hard to come by, so every bit of paper is saved, and I hang on to any catalogs and cut the pages. At least we can use the chamber pots at night. These are kept under the beds and emptied every morning.
Hauled logs and ash wood from the trees we cut earlier and took them to the mill. Heavy rains, so the rivers and streams are high, but the roads were very muddy. I attended a school meeting. We spent several days constructing the frame of a barn extension. Used the wagon for a family visit to grandparents, and on another day, Mary joined me taking the trap to Calais for supplies and seeing Matt's young family. We repaired some fences, fence wires tightening and some posts replaced. The snake fence was down in places. Moved large rocks from a new field. Rock walls needed work. Hard work. Spent days working on the barn frame and fixing on the boards. Still drifting snow, but the sledding is fine. Made shingles for the barn. Good to have 2 strong helpers. I chopped firewood. Henry tried starting to dig the vegetable garden near the house. At last, I got 15 friends to come and help raise the barn extension. The ladies produced some good food and drink to keep us happy during and afterwards. A relief to have it up. We can work on it more easily and get the inside work completed.
Now the weather is improving, laundry day is easier, and clothes dry faster. Monday is a good day as there is plenty of food left over from the weekend, so cooking is not necessary. Having a water pump by the sink makes it easier to fill the pots for heating on the wood-burning stove. It is then poured into wood or tin tubs. We sort the clothes and soak the really dirty ones in an alkaline lye solution made from water running through wood ash. Then boil them for a while before soaping and rubbing them on washboards. Some we place in a deep tub and pound with a wood dolly to release the dirt. Stains require different remedies, like milk for removing vinegar or fruit stains, and chalk for getting out grease and oil. After rinsing several times, we feed articles through the mangles. I have two, a small and a large one. Turning the handles is quite tiring. Then we hang the clothes out to dry on the clothes using wood pegs to keep them in place. We often need to finish drying by hanging things on wood racks around the stove. The girls look after the ironing, using different weights of flat iron according to what is being ironed. We heat irons on the stove, and we use trivets to put hot irons on when adjusting items, so things do not get burn marks. One iron has a detachable handle, which lifts off so hot charcoal can be put inside. This iron stays hot longer.
Today we worked on a river field cleared of trees last year, but the stumps and roots still needed removing. The horse hauled the stumps out of the ground, chain attached to the horse harness, and around the stump. We axed or burned out the remaining bits of the root. The calves were taken to a neighbor's bull for a few days, but are back now. We can expect calves in about 10 months' time. The girls can milk the cows for the next 7 to 8 months and then give the cows a rest before they produce calves.
John mentions milking. This is Mabel and Jessie's job, although Jane helps at times. They are also responsible for the butter making. This takes place almost every day while the cows are producing milk. Milk is left to cool in wood tubs. The cream rises to the surface and is skimmed off and allowed to sour a little before placing it in a plunger churn or an over and over churn. It is slow, monotonous work, and when finally butter forms, the buttermilk is carefully poured off and the butter is very thoroughly washed and all the water extracted before being patted into squares or rectangles using butter pats. Sometimes they salt it, or it can be left plain. If the butter is to be sold, I help them push it into molds which have a pattern on the inside, so when we turn it out, the butter looks attractive. The pattern identifies that it was made on our farm.
We visited friends and I had my likeness taken. Managed to get the apple trees pruned before the buds appeared. I must remember to get the barrels for storing. We'll meet a trip to the cooperage in St. Andrews or St. Stephen. Three of us sheared the sheep. Did not take long. Henry will help the girls wash the fleece, a very messy, dirty, and tiring job, and hang them over the bushes to dry. We had some good plow days. Amos harrowed the field for oats. Several days were for planting the potatoes and sowing the cereal crops of oat, wheat, and barley. I took a sickle and scythe to clear scrub from the sides of the road. Amos took manure and burned land before planting beans and carrots.
We have almost run out of soap. The men will complain when they come in so grubby. Jessie and I made some more. We mix a pint of lye with 2 pounds of clean melted animal fat and simmer it gently for 3 hours, stirring often. As it cools, we add 1 pound of salt, which falls to the bottom, and the soap hardens. I add color and herbs to make the soap smell nice. The liquid soap is poured into a damp wood mold, lined with a damp cloth, and left to set. Then we cut the soap into wedges with a wire cutter. We should have enough for some months now.
Busy months ahead. We finished planting potatoes and oats and harrowing. Amos prepared the land for peas and turnips, and the buckwheat was planted. Henry and I fenced the burnt-over land, but a violent storm stopped work. We made shingles in the barn instead. I have decided to make a new wagon, but must get the wheels ordered from the cooper and collect some barrels. Must also get a horse shod. Amos hauled more sleepers to the line, and Henry harrowed another field for buckwheat.
Another busy time for us. Now the wool is cleaned, we can dye it, using natural dyes where possible, like the leaves of tansy or birch, which gives a yellow coloring.
They were boiling the vegetable, probably cabbage, to get the dye. And then there was a wheelbarrow that had two big jugs of the liquid. And then there's more cabbage to be cooked there. And there. And they used to dip them and then put them in those big racks to dry. And that's all the various yarns that they dyed with the food coloring. And then they had a winder to wind all of the yarn. That's Beach Hill. Yeah, see, there's the wool and yeah, exactly what they've done. So that's what they've done is they've taken, let's say, cabbage, taken the juice out of it, made a dye, and then the dye gets sent out to Beach Hill.
It is quite pleasant in the evening, carding the wool in preparation for spinning, which we all do. And we can decide what we need to weave, cloth for jackets or cloaks or blankets. We can also decide what we need to sew in the way of new dresses and restyling older ones.
Dominion Day. Henry and Jessie had cleaned the wagon, so we all went to St. Andrews to celebrate, met up with many acquaintances. A fine day, so we started making hay. All the family except Mary and Mabel were involved in raking the windrows, so that the hay dried more quickly. Had to repair some hay forks.
Mabel and I had to supply them with food and many drinks, taking it out to the fields, so no time is wasted with their walking back and forth to the kitchen.
Amos lifted the early potatoes. The old machine still works well, and Henry and the girls collected them and put them in sacks. Others are stored in barrels, ready for a trip to St. Andrews. While there, we all went to the traveling circus, but watched the parade first. They put on a good show. Today the hay was still dry, so the family helped fork and toss it into the wagon for storage in the barn. Some has to go to St. Andrews to be sold. Continued making hay. Should be enough for the winter feed. We might need to make temporary hay ricks in the valley field, as the storage area in the barn extension not finished yet. We were given 2 pigs. The girls can look after them. The family went blueberry picking, so it will be preserving and jam making time indoors.
Oh yes, we are into preserving and pickling time. Beans and beets are blanched, drained, and put in vinegar, then stored in stoneware crocks. Various fruits and berries, like wild strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries, we make into jams and jellies, while the larger fruit, like plums, are sliced and dried in the sun or a gently heated oven. Some vegetables, like cabbages, turnips, and carrots, are buried in straw in the root cellar for later use.
I mowed the wheat and barley. The family made sheaves and stood them in stooks, so the grain heads would not spoil on the ground. We made more shingles. And neighbors needed more wood. We pulled the peas and got the wheat and barley safely to the barn, ready for threshing. Cut the last of the oats and then the buckwheat, and got them to the barn. Amos, Henry, and I spent 2 days threshing any day now, some by hand or using the old. We put the wheat through the winnower, even did some by the old method, and took the grain to the mill for grinding. Amos and I pulled the last of the beans and peas and dug more potatoes.
We expect the apples any time now. We peel and core them using apple corers, then slice them thinly, string them, and hang them high in the kitchen to dry, or put the slices on racks placed on the stove to dry quickly.
The apples are ready for picking. Henry's in charge of this. At least now we have enough barrels for storing them, and Mary is all set to peel, core, slice, and dry some. Still digging potatoes, but we went to a cattle show in St. Stephen, met friends there. The threshing machine is finally here, so we can start on the buckwheat and oats. Amos and Henry threshed the peas and cleaned them. Took some grain to the grist mill for grinding. The last of the carrots and turnips are safely in and stored in the root cellar. Wet again, so back to cutting wood in the shed and working on the barn interior. Henry helped a neighbor collect straw for winter use around his house. The lads and I banked our house, and 3 feet from it, then piling straw in the space between the posts and the house. Place stones on top to prevent straw blowing away. Once the snow falls, it should be snug and compact, and keep our house warmer.
Mabel and I got the mattresses down so that we can replace the fillings. I keep wondering about using feathers, but they are so difficult to clean, and if the cleaning process goes wrong, one is left with a terrible mess. So Jessie and Jane have been collecting clean chopped straw and chaff from the threshing and taking out the old filling to add to the manure pile. 4 pairs of hands fill the mattresses quickly, so they are soon back on the beds, topped with a covering of cleaned fleece set between 2 sheets. When it gets cold, a blanket over that will keep us warmer. I don't think we need any new quilts at the moment, but perhaps a new rag rug or 2 in the girls' rooms would be nice.
We worked on burnt over land, cutting wood, and removing brush and fallen branches. Delivered wood, killed the bull, 2 sheep, a heifer, and 2 pigs. We must warn Mary we will need the kitchen to prepare any meat we do not sell for drying, smoking, and salting. I managed some light plowing. Batting wood in the forest and hauling. Cut hemlock and removed the bark using bark spuds. Then we loaded bark on the wagon and took it and the bull and heifer hides to the tannery in St. Stephen. They paid well. Collected flour for Mary, who was busy preparing for Christmas. Managed to haul some gravel from the river and filled hollows in the valley road. Rather stormy, but took a horse to be shod at the blacksmith in St. Andrews and had him sharpen some tools.
Everyone wanted baths before Christmas. So we fetched in the hip bath and the full-length bath and put them each in a different room by the kitchen, and took it in turns, ladies in one room, men in the other. It took a while to heat up the water, no one was allowed to soak for long, and we added more water for the next person. And because water is precious, we kept the water so I could use it to wash floors later in the week. We had quite a lot to do in preparation for Christmas. The girls decorated the living room with holly and evergreen boughs, and found a large log to be the Yule log in the fireplace, a tradition handed on from John's father from his early days in England. As for the food, birds to pluck, hams to bake, cakes to make, special breads, seems endless but fun.
The 25th, Christmas Day. It snowed heavily, but our son Matt and family made it through from St. Stephen to join us. So it was a good family day. Amos announced he was getting married next year, and Mabel and her boyfriend have announced they are getting betrothed. So things will change around here. I think Amos will build a small house on our land near the road, so he will continue to work, farm with me, and probably inherit it at some stage. Mabel will probably live in St. Andrews. The day after Christmas, it continued to snow, so we delivered wood to the neighbors and the mill. Worked on shingles in the barn and delivered sleepers.
With all the family changes next year, I wonder what 1878 will be like.